I'm Ashtootrippy and welcome to my channel.
Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, and today we are going to talk about it. So I have done a couple deep dives with Crime Weekly this week, and I've dug a little bit deeper and I've tried to rationalize and compartmentalize all of the moving pieces in Gypsy Rose's case, and I'm gonna break it down for you guys here today. So, today we're gonna not only be talking about Gypsy Rose's pregnancy, but we're also gonna be talking about the LSU game that Ken and Gypsy went to. Yes, the same LSU game that Ryan Anderson, her ex husband, also stated in a live the previous night that he was going to attend. Do we find this weird? Do we not find this weird? I mean, we are talking about Gypsy here, so nothing is off the table. And then we're also going to talk about a few things that I find interesting and a few things that I have a couple things that have just popped into my mind over the past couple of weeks. So we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about it, guys. Okay, so stay tuned. All right, so we're going to start this off by kind of just talking a little bit amongst ourselves. Like I said, I've taken a lot of notes and I've kind of sorted all of my thoughts on this because I go back and forth a lot. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of similarities, a lot of people may not like this, but there is a lot of similarities to me and her as far as growing up and life paths that we've taken. And it's really weird to say that, especially for me, because I'm not a Gypsy hater, but I'm not a Gypsy lover. And I feel like she could do better with her life and she just needs better people surrounding her. But nonetheless, we're going to talk about it, okay? So if you guys haven't seen, I will link it down below and all of the twists and turns that it takes. So it's a really good podcast and YouTube to watch and see the different between the two. Now, I have been taking so many notes because what I have been doing is kind of just structuring everything in this. And basically, what my notes look like right now is just a big jumble of stuff, and basically we have a lot of things, and I want to touch on a few things just because Crime Weekly did touch on a lot of things that I think are very obvious and a lot of people didn't know about these. So the first one I kind of want to talk about is the fact that Dee Dee Blanchard, so Gypsy Rose Blanchard's mother, Dee Dee, she was the youngest in her family. It was said that she did have a heart murmur when she was younger, and that basically as a little girl there was no evidence of this, and it seemed like she like kind of carried a mean girl energy about her. She caused a lot of turmoil when she was a child, and she was obsessed with celebrities as a teenager or even a young adult into her 20s. She was obsessed so far to the point where she would talk about celebrities and act like she, you know, would hang out with them and chill with them and just be around them constantly. It seemed like whenever Dee Dee got in trouble, her main reason for being in trouble was either to act like an innocent little girl or to basically run away. So this is a lot of things we also see later on down the line, of course. I wrote down a lot of different things about Dee Dee's childhood and things like that. I don't really want to get into too much of that because, you know, the way people are raised in different countries, in different states, in different cities, anywhere you're raised is just so different. So I don't really want to touch on that. I do kind of want to touch on the fact that Dee Dee and Rod, the whole Dee Dee and Rod thing, that really, the fact that since Rod was still a teenager when he met Dee Dee, the fact that people like kind of take it back and they're like, oh well, he was only 17 and all of this. No, Rod was well aware of what he was doing, and I believe, honestly, I believe Dee Dee did have kind of a younger mindset than everybody else, just because the way she grew up, she was kind of, you know, coddled and babied a lot. So she just had a different mindset, and her mental capacity was better fit with the 17-year-old. And the things you see her do or the things you hear her do match that. So the fact that Christy didn't go to the wedding, knew Rod, knew Dee Dee, because Dee Dee and Christy worked in the same area, were friends for a short period of time. Ron went to high school with Christy, but for some odd reason, bumped into them at the bar right after their wedding. And honestly, I don't think this was an accident. I think Christy was similar to Dee Dee. She liked to manipulate situations. She liked to throw a wrench in everyone's plan. And this also comes, like, I'm not talking about this yet, but this comes into play with the LSU game. So just hang on to that information, okay? In the second episode of Crime Weekly, they have the honor of talking to Fancy. Shout out to Fancy. I will tag the Good Wives Network down below. And they have a couple books that came out as well as a podcast if you ever want to hear her and how, you know, she came into things with Gypsy Rose Blanchard and things like that. And she talks a lot about the medical documents and how she looked at the medical documents, the interrogation and all of that, and made her decision that she knew that Gypsy and Christy were lying to her, and you know, she confronted them and they ran away from her pretty much and sued her. And yeah, just a big old thing, right? There's a lot of medical history here, so I did write down a medical history. So Gypsy had a medical history of sleep apnea. There was a CPAP machine. At the age of 8 or 9, I believe, she was diagnosed with sleep apnea. So a lot of the pictures, I'll drop one down here below. A lot of pictures you see of her for testing are for a sleep test or sleep apnea test. And this is a condition of which you stop breathing in the middle of the night, and this is very serious. Like, even if you're a child using this, it's very important to use your CPAP machine. She also had the crossed eyes, and that was actually operated on a couple of times. The crossed eyes is a genetic effect from her chromosome disorder 1q21.1. So 1q21.1, this is her chromosome disorder. It is very rare. It's a microarray, and you have to specifically ask for this genetic testing to be done, okay? So the crossed eyes is one of them. Asthma, she had very mild asthma. Now, if you guys have kids, you guys know that a lot of times with asthma comes allergies, so that could have been hand in hand together. She did have a leg injury. That leg injury was when she rode a motorcycle with her grandfather and she fell. That was very short-lived. This is not what, the leg injury is not what catapulted Dee Dee into putting her into a wheelchair. This was just a leg injury when she was younger. Now, the feeding tube is the biggest controversy that we ever have, because people think that doctors just put in this feeding tube and she didn't eat it. But things don't work like that, guys. In her medical records, as Fancy states, a lot of things are tried and failed before things are done, including the feeding tube. This was a failure to thrive, and basically she was not thriving correctly. I have talked about this previously about my issues with this and the possibility that I had of actually having a feeding tube when I was younger as well. Now, this failure to thrive is associated with the chromosome disorder as well, but a lot of kids go through this. A lot of things that happen are delayed things. So the chromosome disorder kind of delays things a little bit. So you see that when she gets to the age around 13, things start kind of just calming down in general. Now, the cancer, she never had cancer. This was something that was just said to kind of get people thinking. This stemmed from Hurricane Katrina. It was a new fraud that basically opened up doors for them. Now, this was the shaving of the head. This also coincides with when Dee Dee had cancer as well. So a lot of things that were said about Gypsy was actually about Dee Dee. So keep that in mind as well. Now, she did have muscle weakness in her legs and her extremities. This was also due to the chromosome disorder. Muscle weakness is also why she was placed in a wheelchair. It was recommended that she either get a wheelchair or a walker in order to alleviate this muscle weakness that she had within her extremities. And we do see it also here affecting her now today, because she does say she cannot walk for extended periods of time. Now, she does blame neuropathy due to her pregnancy right now, but I don't believe that's true. I believe it's just her chromosome disorder that's acting up right now. She did have a biopsy back in 2000. Basically, the biopsy was to see about the chromosomal disorder. She did, again, she had a couple of eye surgeries. She did also have ear tubes placed in her ears. Due to the chromosome disorder, this also affected her ears. She would get a lot of ear infections, and also this is very normal in children. I had a cousin that went through this, and actually her sister and her brother went through the same thing and had to have ear tubes. So it's not a rare thing, especially for kids. If you get numerous of these, they're gonna do that for your ear. She also had hearing aids that were given to her. Now the hearing aids are associated again with the ear tubes. That is associated with the chromosomal disorder. Her dental appointments were basically from her teeth rotting due to the 1Q21.1 disorder. Basically, this disorder says that her one's teeth become kind of like cottage cheese and just start rotting away. So this, if you look this up, this is normal for this disorder. Her salivary glands. Now the salivary glands, as Fancy says, the salivary glands are something that could have been malingering by Gypsy herself. They found that Gypsy would always have like saliva pulled in her mouth, and they don't know if that was something she was doing to emphasize something or to show something, or could have been something to do with the chromosome disorder. We're not really sure, but nonetheless, her salivary glands were taken out, and we can tell now that she still produces way too much saliva. So it still affects her today, and that goes back to the people that think that this doesn't affect her today, but it does, because it's a chromosomal disorder. It's a rare condition. Again, it delays things. So as she gets older, I'm sure it's going to delay a lot of her like menopause, and it's going to delay a lot of things, and she's going to start seeing it as she gets older reappear in certain ways too, because that's just what happens. Now, last but not least is the epilepsy. Now, it was never really known if she did have epilepsy. Again, this is something that a lot of people have. My own biological father had epilepsy, and we have a very close friend that has epilepsy, or even any kind of seizure disorder. So we don't know. We know that there was some medication that was given for it, but no doctors actually reported seeing her have a seizure. Now, I'm only going to touch on a couple more things before we start talking about like updates with Gypsy Rose right now. There was a couple things that I wanted to touch on, and I talked about this in my live. Company at Crime Weekly made the similarity and the distinction between Gypsy and a child doctor. This is a very smart distinction between the two, because we can assume at one point Gypsy sat down with her mother and they had a conversation and said, if you continue doing this, acting younger, shaving your head, staying in a wheelchair, being a little sicker than you actually are, then we can continue going on trips and getting money and having a home and all of this other stuff, right? Now, the connection between a child doctor is like, you're going to go to a child and be like, we can do X, Y, and Z, have everything you want, but you just have to do X, Y, and Z. They're going to say, heck yeah, let's do it. Where do I sign up? This is a lot what we're talking about as far as what went on behind the scenes. Now, we are never going to know what actually went on, because Gypsy took out the only person that really knew what the whole con was and what everything was. But at the end of the day, we can naturally say that this was something that was agreed upon, because there's been many instances, including when CPS did go to their house, where they did find that Gypsy had a ID, not a driver's license, but an ID issued by the state saying she was 18. And at that point, CPS could not interfere anymore, because she was an adult and she was not wanting to pursue anything or leave. Those were her own words. A lot of people wonder why we say that this is not Munchausen syndrome by proxy or medical child abuse. The reason this is not medical child abuse is because with medical child abuse, people are going to continue to try to make their child sick or continue to pursue doctors. In this case with Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Dee Dee Blanchard, her mother, Dee Dee did not continuously pursue doctors. Dee Dee started with doctors around the age of 8 when her daughter started getting different things with sleep apnea. She started getting sick. She started just different things, right? Probably even just going to normal doctor's visits. Her doctor recommended her go see specialists, things like that. It happens when you have kids. Slowly but surely, things started happening to where they were needing certain equipment for Gypsy and things like that, and things weren't progressing, so they were looking into it. Now, we don't find out about the microdeletion, the chromosomal disorder, until 2011, but everything that has been done prior to 2011 was to find out what is going on with Gypsy herself. We can argue all day and say that Dee Dee was abusive to her. And yes, there is instances. The shaving of the head, I can definitely see in scenarios where Dee Dee would have to discipline Gypsy, and I can see possible hitting and things like that, no more than a normal child got in a normal household with normal parents and normal functionalities. Now, again, the reason this is not Munchausen syndrome by proxy is because we see periods of time. We seen from birth to around 8. We see it again from 11 to 13, and then we see it again to 13 to 18. We see these gaps in doctor's visits and medical advice. And then once everything is located as far as the chromosomal disorder, everything like that, Dee Dee is asked, do you want to continue testing? Do you want to continue this? She states within the medical records, no. She does not, because Gypsy is stable, Gypsy is happy, and she's fine with where she's at. So that is case closed on Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Now, can we get it off of Wikipedia, In Touch Weekly, ABC News, that she is a Munchausen syndrome by proxy survivor? Because she simply is not. It's simply not true. This lie was concocted not only from Rod and Christy Blanchard, but also the defense attorney in Gypsy's case, that is also now her manager for social media, apparently. That's concerning. I don't have to say any more of that, okay? There's so much more that goes along with this. However, also I want this to be stated on here that Social Security was paying Dee Dee and Gypsy. So Dee Dee was getting her Social Security for her medical issues because, like I said, Dee Dee did have medical issues herself. And Gypsy was getting Social Security for her medical issues as well. Now, a lot of people ask, why did Social Security not go after them? Because these were actual medical issues. If you guys have ever dealt with the Social Security Administration, you guys know that they do not mess around. If you do not have a medical condition, you do not get disability benefits. They found these were legitimate concerns. These were legitimate Social Security checks that were getting sent to Dee Dee and Gypsy Blanchard. So there's no fraud in that case. Also, a lot of people say, why didn't Medicaid or Medicare go after them for fraud? A lot of the same thing. These were all necessary because of the chromosomal disorder, and they did do all the necessary testing. The doctors involved, even though some of them are a bit shady, Robert Beckerman, even though some of them are shady, they did go through all of the testing they needed as far as to get to the point that they actually, that's just how it is. That's how the cookie crumbles. This was not an abuse case. This was not an abuse case in any way, shape, or form. And we see that. Now, like I said, was there a little bit of abuse? Definitely. Was there any more abuse than an average child? No. Was there abuse enough for her to want to kill her mom? No. Plain and simple, no. A lot of the things that I pull, because I've been kind of just writing down what I see. Now, there's an interview with Gypsy where she says that my mom gave me this little glass house. You guys probably remember it. You can look it up if you don't. Now, the glass house thing is really funny to me to mention. That's a really weird omen and a really weird thing, facade to use on as far as a glass house. Because glass houses you can see into. Just weird. Just an opinion again. A lot of lies, but in her interview or in her interrogation, she says, I don't tell lies. Gypsy, you do. You do. We may see different things like them being untrustworthy or selfish or con artists and things like that. Now, the way I see it is this was just all one big mistake. This was just one after the other, one incident after the other that kind of just all worked within their favor. Dee Dee being in an area that was ridden with a hurricane that she could actually thrive off of. That was just something that a big mistake that happened that propelled her into what she was in. You know, just so many different things that just happened, little things that happened along the way that just helped along the way. And then the election of the year that Gypsy got her plea deal and things like that did not help any at all as well. Now, I want to move on and we're going to talk a little bit about updates with Gypsy. I'm going to drop a picture up here. Now, over the weekend or yesterday, Sunday, because I am recording this on Monday. You might see it on Thursday, but hey. Anyways, over the weekend, Gypsy and Ken went to an LSU game, Louisiana State University game. And we know that Ryan is a huge LSU fan and he loves college sports, period, right? And Gypsy knows that as well, and so does Ken. Now, Ken is a little bit into sports. He doesn't really like give me the sports vibe. He gives me like the video game vibe, but I do see that he is a little bit into sports. Now, who's to say that his friends aren't also into this? Now, I have a lot of people come into me and they're like, this is real shady. It's shady, but it's not unexpected from Gypsy. Gypsy knew Ryan was going to be at this game because Ryan had said in his live the night before that he was going to be going to the game. Do I find it ironic that they went? Yes, because she even says in one of her comments on the video or on the post she made on I don't think it's the post on Instagram. I think it's a post on TikTok. Again, I'm blocked from her, so I can't see that. But I did see a comment on there and somebody said that they loved her sunglasses because remember she said that she was going to be wearing sunglasses. She was going to hide out when she goes out in public. And somebody said they loved her sunglasses and she's all, I literally grabbed them from the gas station on our way to the game. That right there told me, you know what that told me? That told me that this game was not planned. And Ken probably had a friend or Christy or somebody, they had like a friend of the family or a friend that was going to this game and they're like, hey, we'll go with you. Isn't it also very funny that they're super duper close in the game? Like, did somebody gift them tickets possibly to be kind of snooty with Ryan and maybe see him? She said she didn't see him, by the way. But this just gives off not only mean girl energy, but pick me energy. Like, oh, I'm going to see my ex-husband at an LSU game because I'm going with my new boyfriend and I'm pregnant. You know what I mean? That's just what kind of vibe it gives me. And it's just disgusting. Does she think she's still 14, 15? Like, I don't know. Like, this whole... Yeah. Anyways, before I started recording this video, I also watched a video over on YouTube and it's called Alice Down the Rabbit Hole. Don't know who runs it. It seems like a newer account. It's 300 followers and stuff like that. But they found a website that says it's called fakeababy.com. And they point out how Gypsy's little bump that she has in that video could be fake. I'm gonna take the video down below. You guys go watch it. Tell me what you think in the comments after you watch it and let them know as well. But are we thinking that this pregnancy isn't real? Are we coming to a consensus that most likely she is not pregnant and we're going to see just a trigger warning here, a miscarriage possibly? But like I was telling people this morning, if you have the audacity to exploit your pregnancy, you have the complete audacity to exploit your child. Just saying. Just saying. Now, the episodes did leave me with a couple of questions. Now, the main question I have is for the hospitals that were involved, and if anybody knows this, definitely give me a comment down below. Let me know. Now, the hospitals involved in this didn't seem to have a problem with the malingering or with anything that was going on, and didn't seem to look into it much because CPS was only called once, things like that. Now, I want to know what kind of financial gain or what kind of publicity that the hospitals were getting from this, because not only was Gypsy going to the hospitals a lot, but they were doing like medical conferences and things like that. So I would love to know what the gain from the hospital was from this as far as publicity and things like that. My second question is, Fancy had mentioned that after Gypsy had stopped doing like medical visits all the time, she basically her and Dee Dee would go to medical conferences and they would still get benefits, as far as sometimes they'd pay them or they would get to go out of town and things like that. And my question is, what kind of medical conferences were these that were still assisting in finding them and having them speak at these conferences and things like that? That's just my only question. And also, my last question is the fact that in all of the documents in there, how did it ever come to the fact that Dee Dee had Munchausen syndrome by proxy, when in fact in all the documents from her medical records, it does show that in fact Gypsy was the one that was malingering? Just a question. I don't know, something to ask. I want to give you guys a couple updates here on my channel. I haven't gone live yet, guys. I'm trying to work up to it, and I don't know how to work this, and I'm really scared that if I do videos or if whatever we talk about, it's going to be complicated, and I think I'm just thinking too much about it. But anyways, I will be going live on here. Be sure you guys subscribe. I do have a subscriber only video up, is about my hater fiction. If you guys don't know what hater fiction is, it's basically a fictitious story that we tell because we dislike the people. I don't know what other way to put it, but that's what it is. I have uploaded that video. It was on my Patreon. If you guys prefer to subscribe to my Patreon, you can. I also am going to have merch come up soon. So the merch on here on YouTube will be similar to the merch I have over on TikTok. Other than me making it, it will be shipped by somebody else. So if you guys have any problems, definitely reach out to me and let me know. But I will be adding that soon, and be sure you guys subscribe, and be sure you guys go watch all my old videos. I am coming super close to my next goal here on the YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe, and till next time, guys, we'll talk about it. Okay, have a good week, guys. Bye.
Thanks for watching Trippy Tribe, and be sure to hit that like and subscribe button.